Hey everyone, and so the question is, what does it mean to awaken? So, big question. Let's see if I can do it justice in a little bit of time here. And look, there's so many definitions on awakening. You can spend a lot of time on Google and find out a lot of different information and a lot of different things. And so, talk to you a bit about the way I experience it and what's become apparent to me. And with everything, just take what resonates, leave the rest behind. But there's really like the physical aspect and then the spiritual aspect. And so the physical aspect is really like the merging of the soul with the physical body. So if you can, give you a visual. If you imagine, up there, though it's not really up, but up there, where these beings of light, where the soul, that is awakened and knows exactly who it is, knows it's an emanation of God, right? Has never experienced this thing called fear. Is just this kind of beaming, like, eminence of light, right? And it decides to have a physical experience, which I'll get to the spiritual aspect of that, why in a second. But through that process and over time, many lifetimes, right? You can think about it that way. A little bit of that light, that soul anchors down in the physical at a time, anchors down in the physical at a time. Now, you're always connected to the soul. You can think of it as like a thread, right? But as that soul merge happens, you awaken in terms of remembering who you are, kind of what your soul embodies up there and who it is, but only here within the physical experience. And then so the spiritual aspect of this is really that, up there, there's no fear. There's not this thing called the ego, just kind of like imagine yourself, floating, flying around, feeling bliss, feeling happy, feeling all those things. And you come here and have an experience in a dimension, if you will, or, planet Earth, Earth school, choose your word there, where the experience is kind of the antithesis of the truth, the antithesis of what God is, right? There's this thing called fear. There's this thing called ego that doesn't exist over here, that you come in and experience this deep experience of what isn't to remember and awaken to what is. And there's great spiritual evolution and lessons in doing that process and going through that process, despite the density, despite the fear, despite the polarity. Despite this kind of, very convincing lack and limitation perspective, you come to remember who you are. And it's a really hard lesson. It's a really hard process to go through. So there's the physical, which is like the experience of creation itself, the process of bringing in, dark into, light, into dense matter, if you will. Like the integration of that process and what that is, which intuitively I feel is the experience of creation of itself. You can kind of think about it as, you kind of start out with this like dense, darker energy, matter over time. And over time it becomes light, and more light is infused to it and it becomes something else. So there's that experience of creation of evolution itself. That is the awakening process. But then there is the spiritual. And the spiritual is it's a huge soul growth for you to kind of be blinded, in what you can call forgetfulness, and go through a process of remembering, of reclaiming your truth, of returning, if you will. And, the masters that have come down from time to time, they haven't come down to say, hey, one day you're going to be saved and I've got you, I will return. What they're coming to do, and whether it's the Christ or Buddha or, whomever, there's been many, are coming and they're saying, this is who you are. This is what you're becoming. This is what's possible for you. This is what you're working for. This is what you're doing here. This is what you're striving to do. Like, this is your journey. My journey is yours. We're one and the same. And so that's really it. So then the awakening process happens through suffering. So in the last year, with all the different events, it is innately and uniquely tied to the accelerated awakening that is happening on the planet at this time. As I have experienced, as many have experienced, where all of a sudden you just like feel more conscious and aware than you ever have. You feel more connected to the present. You're just seeing things more clearly. But then, you know, it's kind of like this up and down thing, because at times also you're experiencing like this heaviness or this, I call it density, that you don't even necessarily can't connect it to something specific in your life. So you're going through this process of like clearing and lifting, clearing and lifting. And the suffering that's happening on the planet right now is helping to accelerate that for us. And so within that, and I know this isn't the question, it's like, why now? What's going on? The truth is, I don't know. I have ideas about that. I've kind of, you know, had intuitive hits about that, but I think it's like, this is just how evolution works. Like this was always predestined, because every single teacher and master in any religion across anything, all the message has been, there will be a time will come when this happens. And that time is now. I know it. And so anyway, so, you know, I'll kind of wrap this up with a little bit like, how do you cope? The cope is just surrender to the process. Surrender to the process. Be willing to look at the ways that you're believing in fear, the way that you're aligned to fear, the beliefs you hold that are ultimately tied to fear, because they are not true. Fear is ultimately this energy that is an illusion, that seems really convincing, that seems really real. But as you start to see the different ways you subscribe to fear in all its forms, and the way that's kind of locking, blocking, limiting your life, and you start to see through that, it unlocks and you kind of anchor down more of your truth, more of your soul, more of who you are. And as you do, you just start to feel free. You start to realize that, you know, in every moment you have a choice. In every moment you can choose your perception, and the ability to choose your perception is your choice. And as you start to master that ability to choose your perception in every moment, you master reality, and you start to see yourself as a true creator, as someone that's truly free to create and experience any life that they want. And so that's it. I've talked enough. I hope this was helpful. If you found it helpful, be sure to like this video, and any more questions you can post below. Okay, bye for now.